Dreams. We're live. Welcome to the first edition of Cleat Dreams.
This is awesome.
I'm Kelly Phoenix. That's Renee, Freak NFL. And we're going to bring you some football talk. We're going to talk football. We're going to talk prop bets. We might throw in some DFS. We've got some fun stats. So stick around right after the music.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Renee. I know we talked about what we wanted to start with, but I need to rewind a second because you had a big moment. You had a huge moment. You do a lot of sports betting. Sports betting is not new to you. You do a lot of sports betting. You do a lot of high stakes sports betting, or at least high stakes to the majority of us.
Yeah.
Tell us, I want to hear the breakdown of what happened week 1 for you.
I mean, it's crazy. It's been crazy. Like today is like, oh my God. I have a show every Tuesday at the morning, and like it's the 4th year that I make this show, and I always make like this crazy parlays. I mean, everyone that loves NFL and you love sport bets, we have a little more of notion about the players because we are crazy about fantasy football. So I try every year to put these stats at sport bettings and everything. So I love NFL bets, and I give in the live, it was like for free because everyone is like asking me like, where do you have a group of parlays? I want to pay you, and I'm like, no, it's in a show. I always give, and if you pay a group of parlays, you are so wrong. You can pay someone that like with a straight bet or everything, okay, but with parlays, that's crazy. So I tell them, I make a, how do you say in English, like a six parlay, six leg,
6 leg. Yeah.
leg parlay, yeah, like with touchdowns. Josh Allen, Alvin Kamara, Anthony Richardson, Jaden Daniels, Devon Ashane, and Justin Jefferson. And I was like this close to put the Zach Moss and the Jerome Ford one, and both happened. So it will be craziest. So it hits, and everyone is going crazy. Me too, because I was like, "Oh my God, they're still alive!" And then the Anthony Richardson scores at the end of the game, and then I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to see really the Commanders like this nervous." So it goes crazy. Some follower told me like I close it at halftime, and I was like, okay, you have your money there, a lot of money. So and then it happens, and Jaden Daniels scores twice. So I scream a lot at home, and
I
it
bet.
was, yeah, it was amazing.
Just so you all know how amazing, the 6 leg parlay scored Renee $76,000
No,
and
pesos.
pesos,
Yeah.
not dollars, 76,000 pesos. And then we need to do the conversion on that. And then the second bet, how much was that one? That put you over 100,000.
Yeah, because I bet like Josh Allen scores 2 touchdowns, and goes green. Then I bet Jaden Daniels scores touchdown, and it goes green. I bet the Isaiah Pacheco. So I there were a lot of green bets. I only failed the Caleb Williams touchdown. I think he's going to go for the touchdown, and the Rashee Rice touchdown. And in Monday night football, I went to the over of yards from Garrett Wilson, and didn't happen. But all the other ones were like green, green, green. It was a great week for me.
That is such an excellent story. Oh, I gotta mark that. I'll come back to that one. Let me mark it. I was meant to hit this. Good evening. So I also played a touchdown parlay. It was a 5-leg touchdown parlay,
Nice.
and it was Jonathan Taylor. It was Tyreek Hill, Michael Wilson. Shoot. I can't remember my fourth and fifth. My fifth one that did not hit was Jamar Chase. So I was sitting there super sad because that would have been $1,400 on a $10 bet. So
Nice.
we get lots of
Crazy.
promos, for the first week of football. So I'm getting cash in on all those. But it feels good to get back into the groove again and be like, I know my stuff. I know what I'm talking about. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to talk about that. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, these are players who did manage to score touchdowns, who had good games, plus or minus. I mean, Michael Wilson scored a touchdown, and then that's all the rest that we saw of him. But for the most part, these guys had really good games. You've collected the list of the top 5 players for each position from last week. Let's talk about them position by position and pick out some that were overreactions and underreactions. Where do you want to start? Quarterback?
Quarterbacks, or I know that you love tight ends, so we can
I love
start with
tight ends.
tight
You want to
ends.
start with tight ends? Okay, let's start with tight ends. Top 5 tight
Yeah.
ends.
I mean, likely tight end 1. I mean, this is amazing, but everything is like freaking out about Mark Andrews. I know you have a lot of Mark Andrews, so we should go crazy with likely. I mean, in a lot of leagues of that I have, everyone goes like so high in waivers, like spend a lot of fab over him, and I'm like, oh my god, Mark Andrews is going to be wide receiver 1 at the end of the season.
Yeah. I mean, we have to also think about this. Mark Andrews had been in that minor car accident just before week 1. They said he wasn't injured. It wasn't a big deal. But as I looked, he was just not getting the number of snaps that he would have normally been getting. So I am theorizing in my head that they were just being gentle with Mark Andrews for week 1. I also noticed he had a lot of double coverage when he was out there. So that's number 2. Mark Andrews does get a lot of double coverage, but I agree with you. A lot of freaking out over Isaiah Likely, overpaying for Isaiah Likely. Any other tight ends that stood out in those top 5 where you were just like, wow?
Yes, it's like Monroe, yeah, Foster Monroe from the Saints.
Monroe. That was surprising.
Yeah, because both of the tight ends of the Saints are here in 2 Monroe and 5 Juwan Johnson. So like,
do you think the Saints in general were surprising? Like Derek Carr was surprising. He may even be on your list for quarterbacks. The whole Saints and the way they played that game to me was like, wait, what? What's happening?
yeah, it was crazy, but it was against the Panthers.
Very
but the craziest thing, I think, it was like, and everybody is like freaking out about this. It's like Olave just get like how two receptions for 11 yards. So if you have Olave at your teams, it's because you draft him in 2nd or 3rd round. So it's like, oh my god.
Do you also think, Renee, that this could have been a strategy just league wide where teams were going to come out in week 1 and they were going to put double coverage on the most likely receivers. And so that's why we saw top receivers getting fewer targets and running backs getting receiving targets. I was kind of thinking about that. Like, if there's too much coverage on those star players, teams may be saying, I'm just going to risk it with one of the lesser players getting more receptions. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because it happens with Olave, it happens with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they have these fast guys like Rashid Shaheed, like Jameson Williams. And I mean, Lazard scored 2 touchdowns, and Garrett Wilson were all the time, was all the time like with 2 coverage. And you have to do that. If you leave Wilson or Amon-Ra alone or with 1 coverage, you know what is going to happen. But now this happened, and you cannot. The next time, this week, they're not going to give that space to
Nope.
Rashid Shaheed or to Jameson Williams. So
They're
they
not.
have a happy problem.
That's why I think people could be overreacting on a lot of these because of that very fact. So they tried it. They're trying the double coverage. They're testing the wide receiver twos. They're testing the running backs. They're testing the second string tight ends and realizing, okay, there's a lot more talent here than we gave them credit for. So we need to cover the field better. I feel like that's going to show itself this coming week.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be very, very different in this top 5 of every single spot. But I don't
Did
know.
did Zach Ertz pop up in there?
No, it
No.
was likely Monroe, Brock Bowers. It's cool to see Brock Bowers in the top 5 at the first week. Kyle Pitts, because that touchdown, and Juwan Johnson.
Juwan Johnson.
Yeah.
If we had a surprising one that was not surprising to me, it would have been the usage of Zach Ertz. I didn't think that was unusual by any means. So
For
if
sure.
you picked up Zach Ertz as like a last pick, which I did in a lot of leagues, that's probably going to end up being a decent flex for you.
Totally.
It may not get you double digits, but you're not going to get a 0.
For sure. Yeah.
What else we have? Wait, let's take a question. Since we're talking about tight ends, do you have an opinion, Colby or Fryermuth? So I think Muth is one that did not get action as we expected. So I think we would see, I feel like we would see it, but maybe I'm being too optimistic.
I love framework because I think this game was like crazy.
Yeah.
Because they win without touchdowns. So it was like awkward. But I love Pat Framework. I'm going every week with him.
I agree. I think the Muth will be Luth,
Yeah.
as we like to say. Let's grab, because I have 3 of them bookmarked. Here, I'll get one more. We've got, I've been offered Brandon Ayuk for Jalen Reed. What are your thoughts? Ooh, that's a toughie.
That's a tough question.
I picked up Jalen Reed personally because, and I would say half of my leagues, and as a starter, because I had really poor positioning this year. It was awful. I drafted from the middle in almost every draft I was in, and that's where you end up with Jalen Reed as what you would say is a mediocre pick. And I'm like, well, that's my starter. And it worked out. But man, I don't know if I could turn down Brandon Ayuk for Jaden Reed. I don't know.
It's difficult because this game from Ayuk was like crazy, and they didn't have Christian McCaffrey, so Shanahan make a lot of explosive and surprising plays. So I think Reed, even without Jordan Love, he's going to have this main role. And Brandon Ayuk is like Debo, Keto, CMC, now Mason. So I think I'm going to stay with Reed.
I think you're spot on with that there just aren't as many mouths to feed
Exactly.
over there in Green Bay. It is going to be a little rough not having Jordan Love, but he's still going to get the targets. They have to throw to somebody. Whereas, like you mentioned, in San Francisco, there are a lot of targets, a lot. So I think that's our answer. We would keep Jalen Reed. People out there, chime in with your thoughts. Would you trade Brandon Ayuk for Jalen Reed? Give us your opinion. Okay, let's move on. Wide receivers, top 5 wide receivers. Number 1.
Number 1, Jalen Reed.
Surprise!
Yeah, I mean the way they use him, like at Debo Samuel. I mean, it was amazing. So he's in top 1. Then Cooper Cup, both is 33 point for Reed, 32 for Cup, and then Tyreek Hill, Jameson Williams, and Mike Evans.
And I think we could continue to see Mike Evans. I think Jameson Williams was probably the biggest surprise in there. I'm actually surprised that we don't see Alan Lazard because of that um, standout performance for him.
It
Uh,
was crazy.
so crazy. I love to see it because he's an excellent human being and he absolutely deserves every second of it. But wow, that was crazy. I was just gonna look on the topic of Jaden Reed. I keep wanting to say Jaden Reed.
Jalen Reed.
Jaden Reed. Um, so he had 4 catches, which was he had 4 catches, and then he had a career high of 171 scrimmage yards.
Yeah.
He had
Oh
2
yeah.
touchdowns, one of them was rushing, one of them was receiving. He had a career high of receiving yards. So, he had 171 rushing yards and 138 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. I mean, what is the man not doing in here?
Yeah. Yeah. I miss it, but it's the number 3. Sorry, it's Reed, Cooper Cup, Lazard, Hill, and Jameson Williams. You're
Lazard, he
correct.
did get in there, okay.
Yeah. I have here. Sorry.
Yeah. So, wow,
Yeah.
what a weekend. If we're talking about Brandon Ayuk, if we're looking at stats and trends, he has had a touchdown in 4 of his last 5 road games, but this is only week 2. So we're looking back into last season at this point. So I don't know how much faith we want to put into that, but that's what
I,
the NFL notes tell us this week.
do you think he's going to not being every week at top 5, but being this guy that is going to have more than 6? He has like 9 targets. No, nine targets or 9. Yeah, 9 targets. Is he going to have them every week?
I mean, I don't he's Brandon Ayuk, and it feels like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel are just constantly back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then throw in, like you mentioned, Christian McCaffrey. If they go 2 running backs, if they try that route, you've got Jordan Mason, who nobody can stop. Don't forget about George Kittle. You know, it's hard to believe that it could be consistent, but it's not going to be bad. It's not going to be a top 5 every week, but you can't miss. I don't think you can miss. You're definitely not going to bench him.
Is
Gonna play.
now in a flex is going to be amazing. And I mean,
True.
Alan Lazard. I didn't think this in any draft.
Nobody did. Nobody did, but he could easily become a favorite. I mean, quarterbacks play favorites. They have the people they rely on to catch the ball. So who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows? Do you want to
it's,
talk running backs?
yes, I have them here. Saquon Barkley, I mean, he we know how can he play, but in the Giants he was like the only piece that they have. So now with the Eagles, it's amazing because the tush push didn't work. And
Yeah.
but you have Saquon Barkley, so you don't have to worry about it. So I mean, 3 touchdowns in the first game, it was amazing. Like he plays that game. We have Barkley, Joe Mixon, Shane, J.K. Dobbins. That's pretty amazing, and Alvin Kamara.
I am so torn about this J.K. Dobbins thing.
Amazing.
It's amazing. We have seen nothing from him since basically the beginning of time. There was like a brief flash of brilliance and then injury, not doing anything, no usage, injury. And I thought, surely they're just going to go with a veteran.
Yeah.
Nope. They went with Dobbins. They went with him. That was the big shocker, I think, for me. So this guy, JD Nolan, says, my player to look out for this season is Devonta Smith. Every time the Eagles needed a play on third down, they looked to him. He seems trusted so much on big plays. I agree with you.
Yeah.
That is definitely Jalen Hurts' go-to. That's his comfort. That's his safety blanket. So I don't disagree with you at all on that.
Yeah, I think it's like the safest hands.
Mhm.
So AJ Brown goes deep with this long plays. I plays and it was like, oh my god, AJ Brown is amazing. But I was like surprising, like he go with Smith in this place. I didn't expect that.
I didn't expect it either. Um, all right. If you're asking in questions or making comments, I am absolutely making marks so we can get back to them. I see another one. You know what, JD Nolan, thanks for all the chat. I do see that you had a question way back when. Um, he's considering starting Jaden Daniels over Jalen Hurts this week. Am I being stupid? I don't know. Let's talk QBs. Who are the top 5 QBs this week?
Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, Anthony Richardson, and Lamar Jackson. I
And
start Jaden Daniels in all the leagues that I draft him. I mean, I wait. That's cool that you have both of them. But I mean, Jaden Daniels is going to play against the Giants.
yeah, I think
Same?
so. I'm
Yeah,
pulling up my
yeah,
I
the
feel
Giants.
the Giants, yeah. I feel like Jalen Hurts is this where we see that the Eagles have relied too much on the tush push? Um, maybe, maybe. But we know that Jaden Daniels certainly did not. I was gonna try and grab my little sheet. Scrolling, looking for that game. Why are there so many games? I'm just kidding. I don't think you can go wrong either way, honestly, but we know that Jaden Daniels was up there in the top
So the
5.
Falcons, they're going to play the Eagles, Falcons.
Eagles, Falcons.
I
And then
mean,
go ahead.
if they Barkley has this amazing game, and you can like take care of your quarterback, you're going to like in this place. If Jalen Hurts is not going to run, it's going to run. Barkley is going to do that. Now you have this running back that I don't know why Hurts is going to be like in this place. I don't know.
I just was able to find what I was looking for. So Jalen Hurts, it's so crazy how he's not listed there, but he had 311 yards and 2 touchdown passes. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive. 311 yards. And here's the thing, he only had 33 rushing yards. And that's not something that we expect when we talk about Jalen Hurts. We're always like, oh, I'm going to get those rushing yards in also. So Jaden Daniels passed for 184 yards. He rushed for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had the second most rushing yards by a QB in their first career game. So it's pretty great. It's pretty great. I think it's going to continue. We saw also, even though he had 88 rushing yards, Austin Eckler, he had a game.
Yeah,
That's a guy who had a game. I mean, he may not have been in the top 5, but he had a game.
yeah.
Um,
I like Austin Eckler, but I'm like worried because it's Brian Robinson Jr., Jaden Daniels, and Eckler. So it's like, oh my God, who's going to run? But they use him with targets, so like air.
well, JD, we don't think you're stupid. It's definitely a choice. It's a choice, but we don't think you're stupid.
So,
I don't know if
I
you
will go with Jaden Daniels. I'm in with Daniels.
Here we go. I got to start 2 wide receivers, Pickens, Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf. I am scratching Amari Cooper. I did not like what we saw out of Watson this week. I think that's all we're going to continue to see. Sadness. So I'm going Pickens and Metcalf.
I
What
me
about you?
too. I love more Mari Cooper, but
I
I
love
hate
him
the Brown.
too, but who's going to
Like
throw to him?
exactly. And Pickens with Justin Fields is like Justin Fields going to run more. With Russell Wilson, I like more Pickens, but the things in Cleveland are like so bad.
I agree. I mean, I could sit here and say karma came to get
Yeah.
him, but I also think maybe he's just not that good anymore. And there's not much more to say about it. It did not look good. I don't think it's going to look good again. We
Yeah.
saw him sitting out with rando injuries last season, and I think it's because he knew he just wasn't that good anymore. Sad, but that's where I'm at.
But
Pickens, Metcalf.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, here's a good one too. We talked about this at the start of the show. So yes, Mark Andrews will bounce back against the Raiders. I gave the theory where I thought they were just going easy on him because maybe that car accident had a little more to it than we knew about. So easing back in. But also on the flip side, lots of double coverage was happening in that game. So will he bounce back? Heck yeah. I think the Raiders do have a good defense. His name is Max Crosby. And that's about all.
I mean, Max Crosby is amazing. It's going to
Amazing.
be tough. Yeah.
All right. I see another question. I'm going to leave it so we can move on. What do we have left position wise?
No, we have the 4 of them.
Where are we at? Where do we go to next? Did we already say we already did quarterbacks.
Yeah, we
Wide
already
receivers.
made it. Yeah. You're the good one in defense.
Defense. Okay, let's talk defense.
what happens with the Bears and all the defense. It was
Oh,
amazing.
I know. It's like, what happened? I
Yes.
mean, defense, they say defense wins championships, but you also need to score points.
Exactly.
So maybe
Exactly.
that'll happen for them this week.
I mean, oh my God. The first one, the top five, I have them here is the Bears, the Vikings, the Cowboys, New Orleans, and the Chargers.
All super surprising to me, except for the Cowboys because they're always somehow in there. I was surprised at the Ravens. Their performance was, I mean, it was fine, but not what you would expect. Same with the Browns. I don't think it was what you would expect. Maybe even the Lions, even though that game seemed to be very defense, it just didn't. These other teams, they did better.
Yeah. The only two teams that scores was the Vikings and the Bears. And it was like crazy because I mean the Giants, oh my God, they are looking so bad. So bad. So they're going against the Commanders, so the defense of the Commanders is not that good, but they can stop them.
They can. And also the Commanders can score, which is needed to win.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the Vikings are going against the Niners. That is going to be so tough. I mean, mm,
It's gonna be tough. Agreed.
yeah.
I was very proud. I know they were one of the worst defenses, but I gotta throw out that I was very proud of my Cardinals. I had no idea that they were gonna, like, play that hard and play that well. A special teams touchdown by DJ, Dallas, all very exciting, still ended in a loss, still did not make them a top defense, but fun to watch.
Yeah. The what do you think about the game? I mean, it was so crazy because you were winning at the halftime. They were like playing amazing, but talking about fantasy, everyone is like concerned about Marvin Harrison Jr. He only have like 4 yards, and we know he is like amazing. Is one of the best wide receivers in the league, and one game cannot
No.
you cannot say anything about Marvin Harrison. But I think a lot of players like Puka last year were like, look, that's what a rookie should do first weekend. No, that's strange. That's weird. That doesn't happen.
I think, what we saw was just what you and I had been talking about at the beginning of the show
Yeah.
is it seems like it was almost like a league-wide strategy. They're going to cover who they anticipate to have the most impact on the game. And we could see that in every single game this last week where who you would expect to be the top scorer was not the top scorer, and we were seeing running backs having the most receiving yards. We were seeing second string players being the first choices. So I don't think we're going to see that again this second week, though.
It's going to be tough. You're going to play against the Rams?
Yeah,
Yeah.
against the Rams. It's going to be a tough one for sure, but it gave me hope. And I put in my little name there for playoff tickets because I was that excited.
That's cool.
Here's
Uh,
another question. Burrow, Mayfield, or Stafford this week? Who do you like this week?
I mean,
Oh,
Burrow we have to see what is going to
Rough.
happen there in Cincinnati. I mean, my Pats make a great, great, great game. The defense will make a great game. Baker Mayfield is going to play against the Lions. I think it's going to be a very good game.
Yeah.
That if there are going to be a lot of points, and Stafford against the Cardinals, I don't know.
Mayfield has been playing very
I'm not sure.
well. He had 24 of 30 attempts for an 80% completion rate. He had 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. His passer rating was 146.4. This was his fifth career game with 140 plus passer rating, his eighth career game with 80 plus completion percentages. The man is playing out of his mind right now, and I think we should run with it.
Me too. I'm staying with Baker too.
Baker. Let's
Yeah.
do it. We ride at dawn with Baker.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, why don't we move on, Renee? For anybody just joining us, Renee does a lot of sports betting, a lot of what most of us would consider high stakes sports betting. I do a lot of like 10, 20, maybe if I'm feeling rich that day, $50. That would be a lot for me. Most of mine are like $10 buy ins. Renee has some props that she wants to share with us today. So give it to us, Renee.
I mean, I'm going to give a lot of them, but you're going to tell me which ones do you like because
Hey,
I have. Tell me.
I was going to say, everybody get your pens and pencils out. If you want to take notes, now's the time.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go with the touchdown of Jaden Daniels
Yeah,
again because they're going to go to with the Giants. He's going to score. I
he's
mean,
going to
he's going
score.
to try. Yeah, I love it, and it pays like I don't know in how is the in the US. Here's like plus 110
Yeah.
and positive. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Plus 110. Yeah.
yeah. Jordan Mason, everything is like Christian McCaffrey is not going to play. And Jordan Mason was like, oh my God, what is happening with him? And you have to go with that. Oh well, you have to go with the running back of the Niners.
So you've got,
Um,
are you going to put those together? Parlay,
yeah,
Jaden Daniels touchdown,
Jordan Mason
Jordan Mason touchdown.
and J.K. Dobbins
Ooh, spicy.
against the Panthers. I mean,
Not
you have
against
to
the
take,
Panthers. Not too
yeah,
spicy.
exactly. But it's positive too. So if
Yeah.
you put them together, I mean, you're going to have a good, good, good bet. And I like, and I'm again like thinking to put it Zach Moss. They're going against the Chiefs. I mean, the Bengals. I'm afraid of the Bengals, but I don't know what happens when Joe Burrow plays against the Chiefs. They play like gods, everyone. And they're going to be at the red zone. Joe Burrow doesn't run, so I like Zach Moss. So that three together, J.K. Dobbins, Jaden Daniels, Mason, and if you want to, Zach Moss.
And if you want to, Zach Moss. Here's a little data on Zach Moss. Last week, he had 44 rushing yards, 44 rushing yards, 17 receiving yards. He had his
Against the
15th
Patriots.
career rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
He's had a touchdown in 2 of his last 3 games, which is hard to go back to last year, which we mentioned, but he is no stranger to scoring touchdowns. Against
Yeah.
the Chiefs, like you mentioned, it's going to be a spicy game. So It's up to you if you want to
Yeah.
throw Zach Moss in there.
What do you have? You make bets too.
I do make bets too. I am going to admit that I'm along for the ride this week because I've had a very busy work week. I'm in California, flying back to Phoenix tomorrow. So maybe what I'll do, Renee, is I'll tweet out some of my spicy bets.
Yes.
What I can tell you is I'm working on my DFS article for the week over at Dynasty Pros. And I am looking at uh, quarterbacks. I think Patrick Mahomes has an opportunity to perform well this week. He performed well for everybody last week. He's projected for 22 fantasy points, which Jalen Hurts is projected for 24. Josh Allen, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, they're all projected at 22. The one that's the least value to you out of those four is Josh Allen because he's the most expensive at $8,000 on DraftKings, 9.3K on FanDuel, and you're going to be sharing him on a lot of rosters with other DFS managers. So if that's part of your strategy, if you don't care and you're like, I know he's going to get me points, if you're looking at points, you can save a lot by going with Brock Purdy, who's just 6.1K on DraftKings, or even saving $1,000 by playing Patrick Mahomes, who I think is just as much of a sure thing as Josh Allen, and they're projected for the same amount of points. So I think you will need to think about that, those point projections, when we talk about choosing a quarterback in DFS.
I'm so jealous that you have DraftKings and Underdog.
I know you love that. Speaking of, I got served an ad for a new DraftKings app called Pick Six, and it's very similar to Underdog in the sense of Underdog's pick'ems. Underdog does higher or lower, which is how they kind of avoid the sports books over under. DraftKings Pick Six does more or less. And it was fun. I had fun. And it basically creates a pool. So if you have the same pick, whereas Underdog, it's you make your bet, it's valued at a certain amount. My $10 could win me $1,000, for instance, if I'm picking 4 picks to win. On the DraftKings Pick Six, if my 6 are the same as like these other people's 6s, it starts to like create this little pool.
That's so cool.
It's very fun. I had a lot of fun watching it. I did not win, but they're giving anybody out there, if you're able to play Underdog, you'll be able to play DraftKings Pick Six. They're giving $50 for your first $5 bet. So go and put $5 in there. They're going to give you $50 and you can play with it because it's fun to try new things.
Yeah. And oh my God, I'm so jealous. I'm watching the page and I can watch it, but I can't make an account. So
well, I mean, you can always tell me what you want to play.
I mean,
we'll talk about that later.
We should have like a touchdown parlay. Like you give 2 props of touchdown, and I give 2, and give it to Josh, and make like a post. And
oh, that's a good one. I like
that. Really cool.
Yeah. We can share our picks with everybody. If you missed it, Renee, she lives in Mexico. She cleared over 100,000 pesos this last week one. So, she knows her stuff. I like to think I know my stuff. I missed my touchdown by 1, which made me sad. But I knew Michael Wilson was going to score a touchdown. I knew it.
It's amazing. I mean, it's like so much fun watching these games with that I never thought that I'm going to watch the Commanders with this joy the first week.
If anybody has any more questions, now's the time. I think we've talked about all the things that we wanted to talk about. We don't
Yeah.
really have that much of a set agenda today. I wanted to come and talk football with my friend. I think we accomplished that goal. There are 457 live viewers right now. So
Yes.
thank you everybody for tuning in across Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and the app formerly known as Twitter, which is X. You can follow Renee at Freak NFL, Renee Freak NFL.
Yeah.
You can follow me at Kelly Phoenix. Go follow Women in Fantasy Football. Go follow Club Fantasy. Go do all the things. Any more questions? Questions.
Last minute questions.
I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I'm already ready for for football. And why are there
Me
so many
too.
days in between?
Yeah, I mean, and we had the football on Friday. Now it's going to be awful this weekend. But what do you think about my Patriots? I mean, I'm like at the beginning of the season last week, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to suffer a lot. The Bengals are going to win. A lot of people goes down at the survivors with the Bengals. A lot. I didn't take the Bengals because I don't like to bet
Right.
against my team.
Your team.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but I was like so happy that they make that because I wasn't expecting nothing. And now they're going against the Seahawks, and the Seahawks
Ooh,
I didn't love them against
yeah.
the. So if my Patriots starts 2-0, I'm going to start it to getting a little bit of, I don't know. I know I have to calm down, but when your team is playing, it's like, oh my God, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think we could be kind of in the same boat with my Cardinals and your Patriots.
Yeah.
For me, with the Cardinals, it feels like there's enough talent there to do something now. Kyler's healthy, he's an elite quarterback. Nobody better argue with me on that. But you look at the Patriots, they're struggling at quarterback for a few years. Now they have Jacoby Brissett. It's not a name that we think of when we think elite quarterback. I have Ramondre Stevenson in many leagues. And I felt like, if anything, they're going to be handing it off to Ramondre Stevenson. And boy, did they. He rushed for 120 yards and a touchdown. And that's the fifth most rushing yards in NFL Week 1. So definitely made use of that.
Yeah.
Antonio Gibson, 201 scrimmage yards. So, do we have any doubt that we're going to see rushing yards? No, but there were passing yards in there, 157 passing yards and a touchdown for Jacoby Brissett. So, between just the three of them, not to mention Hunter Henry had 4 receptions.
Yeah.
Um, they really spread the ball around. I'm just reading down the line across their roster, and they really spread the ball around. But
Yeah.
for the most part, Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson carried that game, and it's exciting.
Yeah, a lot. And Gerard Mayo tells that we're going to run. Stop us. You know what is going to happen. So I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. And if in some point Drake May gets into the team, it's going to be very different. I don't have a lot of Stevensons. I have it in our league, the full time fantasy, the one
Yeah, the
that,
Circus Series League. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm so happy. I think I get the first place this week.
Well, yay!
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I don't know. how it works because I know the two first weeks it's like
Oh,
what?
so if you were in the top 6,
Okay,
then you get the win. And the reason they do that is so that nobody gets stuck with a super hard schedule. Um, because it's considered high stakes playing the buy-in. And so, in order to make it a little bit more of a fair start, weeks 1 and 2, the top 6 scoring teams get the W, and week 14. And
okay,
I think that may be because of the really bad bye weeks too. That would be rough for a lot of teams. It's going to
yeah,
be rough. So
yeah.
you could end up with a really uneven matchup. Um,
Oh,
but I
perfect.
think that's it. So you got the W. Good job.
Yeah, and you too, right? Yeah.
I'm in 2 of them. I was in the top 6 in one, and I was number 7 in the other.
Oh my God. Yeah, I hate it.
Oh, well, I think it would have won a matchup, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, everybody in here, 472 of you across 4 social platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cleat Dreams. We hope you have sweet dreams. And join us again next week, 6:30
Yeah.
p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Bring your questions. If you have more questions, send them to us over there on the app formerly known as Twitter. And we'll see you next week.
Bye. See you next week.
Oh, I was trying to play the music. I'm really bad, apparently. Let's try again. See you next week.
See you next week.
Just kidding. Okay, I'm really ready.
Okay.